What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're going to be talking about the NFL Combine. Now, at the time of this recording, we are less than 2 weeks away from the official date. So I wanted to give you guys 5 players that I'm going to be watching very closely at the NFL Combine because I think that these players have a lot to gain as far as draft capital goes. And obviously, that's going to affect how we draft them in our Dynasty Fantasy Football rookie draft. So that being said, if this is your first time checking out our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are trying to get 5,000 subscribers by the NFL draft. I think we can accomplish that if you hit that button for us, but without wasting too much time, let's hop right into today's video and let's start talking about these prospects. All right, so the first player that I'm going to be watching at the NFL Combine is going to be quarterback Jaxson Dart out of Ole Miss. Now, Jaxson Dart coming in at 6'2", 225 pounds. He had a 19.3 breakout age, which is obviously very good for us as far as that measurable goes. Now, when you're looking at what he did last year at Ole Miss, 4,279 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Dart was in his senior season and obviously had a very good year there with Ole Miss. And right now, he is currently ranked as Lance Zierlein's quarterback 3 over on NFL.com in this class. So he's definitely somebody that I think has a lot to gain. When I'm looking at some of these NFL mocks, starting to see Jaxson Dart get a little bit of first round buzz. There's obviously a lot of quarterback needy teams in the NFL this year. The Giants, the Titans, the Steelers, the Seahawks, the Raiders, Browns. Obviously the list goes on, and I think that there's a lot of teams that could potentially be looking for Jaxson Dart in this NFL draft and maybe find a way for Jaxson Dart with a good performance to sneak into that first round, whether it be early or whether it be late. I don't really know. We'll see what happens after the performance, but at the end of the day, Jaxson Dart, he's going to be a guy that's going to have a lot to gain. And unlike Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, who I think maybe don't need to throw at the NFL Combine because we have kind of cemented them as the top 2 quarterbacks, I think Jaxson Dart will throw, which is going to give him the ability to kind of raise his draft stock similar to what JJ McCarthy did last year when some of those quarterbacks were not throwing at the NFL Combine. Now let's move on to another player that I'm going to be watching at the Combine, and we kind of talked about him earlier this week in one of our mock draft episodes, but I'm going to watch TreVeyon Henderson, running back out of Ohio State. Now, for a lot of people, it does feel like we have started to cement Omarion Hampton, or at least it feels like a lot of people like Omarion Hampton as the running back 2 in this class. But when I'm looking at TreVeyon Henderson, I think this is a player who definitely has a conversation for RB2. He's my RB2 in the class, and when you look at the production that he had there last season, especially as Ohio State got into the college football playoffs and got to the national championship game, I think TreVeyon Henderson has shown that he can do it all as a running back in the NFL. Now, obviously, there is going to be some durability concerns, but I think this is a player who's going to go out to the NFL Combine, and I think he's going to test really well. He should be able to run a pretty fast 40. He should be fairly athletic in the vertical and some of these other drills. I think he's going to look very good with his workout there at the NFL Combine, and I think a lot of people are going to have to start kind of waking up to the idea of TreVeyon Henderson as RB2 in this class, because when I look at this class as a whole and I look at some of these players and the overall athleticism and explosion that they may possess, I think there's going to be very few that have the ability to put an eye-popping kind of mind-boggling performance together at the NFL Combine the way that TreVeyon Henderson will. So this is a player I think has a lot to gain. I think he's going to be able to show up. I think he's probably going to show out in a lot of these drills, and I think TreVeyon Henderson will make a case, at least post NFL Combine, as most people's consensus RB2. Now let's move on to the third player I'm going to be watching. I want to talk about wide receiver Matthew Golden out of the University of Texas. Now, Matthew Golden is definitely a player that's been rising over the start of this offseason. He's currently tied as the wide receiver 3 in this year's class over by Lance Zierlein on NFL.com, and like I said, this is a player who's been rising a lot. When you look at what he does well, he's a good route runner. I think he has a lot of big play ability, and the overall measurables for Matthew Golden do check the boxes. Obviously, being a junior, 21 years old, 6 foot, 195 pounds. These are the things that we want to see when we're looking at a wide receiver prospect. Now, this year for the Longhorns, he put together 58 receptions, 987 yards, and 9 touchdowns, and I think that this is a player who's going to have the opportunity to increase his draft stock and sneak into the first round of the NFL draft. We've already been seeing some mock drafts where he's creeping into the back half. I think there could be some teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Washington Commanders, the Los Angeles Rams, especially if they're moving on from Cooper Kupp, to start looking at Matthew Golden in the back of the first round, maybe the early second round, especially with a good performance. And if he does go out and have that, I think this is a player who could start to sneak into the back half of first round rookie mocks, and at worst be a very early second round pick for us when those rookie drafts do happen there after the NFL draft in April. Now, another player that I'm going to be watching very closely at the wide receiver position is going to be TreVeyon Travis Hunter. And look, I get it. A lot of people, myself included, have said that Travis Hunter is going to the NFL Combine to work out as a DB. And I've heard some extra stuff since we've talked about that before. It does sound like Travis Hunter is going to work out in both drills. When you go to the NFL Combine, it sounds like you can only get one tag. So he did get the DB tag because most NFL teams do view him as a DB first and a wide receiver second. Now, when I'm looking at Travis Hunter, this year was obviously very good for him at Colorado. 96 receptions, 1,258 yards, and 15 touchdowns. This is a freak athlete. And look, I understand that the NFL Combine a lot of the times is the underwear Olympics. We want to kind of downplay a lot of what happens, but we've seen last year when guys like Xavier Worthy go out and run a blazing fast 40, they do see a bump in draft capital. Now, I don't think that Travis Hunter really needs much more of a bump. This is a player that I think is pretty much a consensus top 10 pick in the NFL draft right now, but when you're looking at Travis Hunter and you see the athleticism that he's going to put on display there in Indianapolis, I think this is a player that's going to see a lot of fantasy football managers get excited about him, especially when he's out there running the wide receiver drills and doing some of the other stuff. This is a player that has a lot to gain, and I think we need some clarity as the Dynasty fantasy football community as to what this could look like. If he runs more of the DB drills, if he runs less of the wide receiver drills, I think there could maybe be an argument that we need to push him down draft boards because of the fact that he is working out as a DB primarily. So there's a lot to gain and there's a lot to lose for Travis Hunter here in this NFL Combine. I think we just need clarity as the Dynasty fantasy football community. At least I know that's how I feel about it, but I'm interested to see what happens. I'm going to be watching him very closely, and we'll see what happens with Travis Hunter at the Combine. Now, the last player that I'm going to be keeping my eye on at this Combine is going to be Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. Now, look, there's a lot of excitement about Tyler Warren in this year's draft class. A lot of people really like him, and rightfully so. He's a very good prospect, but Colston Loveland is kind of being forgotten about. Now, obviously, a lot of people still like Loveland, but this is a player who deserves the type of hype the same way that Tyler Warren is getting. 6'5", 245 pounds, a 19-year-old breakout age. In fact, probably has the better analytical profile than a guy like Tyler Warren, and he's 2 years younger. When you look at the production for Loveland last year, it's a little bit mediocre. A lot of people don't really like that type of production, but let's just be honest. Michigan had horrible quarterback play after J.J. McCarthy left and went to the NFL draft, and Jim Harbaugh left that team. Loveland in 2023, though, had 45 receptions for 650 yards and 4 touchdowns. Obviously, at the tight end position, you're not going to get a ton of that. Guys like Tyler Warren and Harold Fannin in this draft class had a lot more receiving yardage, but I think that Colston Loveland is a very, very good tight end prospect that has a lot to gain. I think this is a player who probably finds his way into the first round of the NFL draft if he has a good combine. Teams like the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers could definitely use a guy like Colston Loveland, and I think if he goes out and measures well, has a good 40, does well in the drills, all of these things considered, Colston Loveland is going to be a lock as a first round tight end, which would give us 2 of them almost guaranteed with Tyler Warren and Loveland. And I think that would definitely make the back end of first rounds very interesting in this year's draft class, especially as we talk about tight end premium leagues and super flex leagues and all of those things considered. So he's definitely a player that I'm going to be keeping an eye on and somebody that we cannot forget about just because we like Tyler Warren. All right, so there you have it, folks. Just a quick, simple, easy video. 5 players that I'm going to be watching very closely at the NFL Combine as that approaches here in the next week or so. If you did enjoy today's video, found something entertaining, actionable, informative, whatever it may be, make sure you hit that like button. It is the best free way to show this channel some support. Also, make sure you are hitting the subscribe button because, like I said at the beginning of the video, we're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers by the NFL draft, and we can only do that if you guys hit that button for us if it's not already clicked. And last but not least, make sure you go join our free Discord. We do have a free Discord linked in the description, helping you guys with your Dynasty fantasy football teams 24/7, 365. There's 300 plus people in that community that want to help you, play in leagues with you, talk about trades, all of that good stuff. So like I said, it's free to join. Make sure you go join that Discord linked in the description. And with all of that being said, I have nothing else for you guys today, so I will see you on our next episode. But until then, peace out.